Hi guys, my name is Dante, and welcome to The Woman of Steel? I don't know. I had an idea to paint some kind of woman that has her full body made of steel, to have a little talk about how to render metals, the electrics. But then I suddenly had this urge to paint this kind of landscape as an environment for the Woman of Steel. But of course this wasn't a great strategy because I'm not sure where to put her now. Let's just start. She's probably floating, some superhero stuff. Or something a bit more epic, not so acrobatic. So by the way, this is my favorite strategy of painting. Like when I have a background, quickly just put spots all over the place. And then when I'm adding a new object, a new character or something inanimated, doesn't matter, like a separate solid object, I just choose the darkest color in the ambience of the environment. So I grab the color of this dark stone and I'm just painting with it. And whatever, just putting this metal lady's spot where I want it to be. And the shading parts or any kind of details inside, I'll take care of that later. It's somewhat close to the way many concept artists work, you know, when they search for some cool design of an alien or a car or whatever. Not a car, but a spaceship, right? Something like completely that requires a lot of search of the shape at all. They just paint these black silhouettes first, and then they choose the one they like, and then they add the details inside. That's something that I recently realized, that this is a very close technique to that. Recently meaning just now. Such a weird spot at the moment. She looks like a dehydrated banana. So she has some kind of a long piece of clothing, like a dress, maybe. Now the environment is pretty cool, it'll give us interesting reflections on the metal. But I also want to add another light source. Let's say this area will be lit by a sunlight that is coming from over there, and lower it's just covered by the smoke and maybe a lower mountain. So I'll showcase it by lighting up this mountain in the distance and maybe even light up the smoke a little bit. And here we have the same situation that I was talking about in the fur video with the werewolf. And here we have a Terminator, but it's being diffused by different details on the surface of the mountain. So little stones and cracks are working the same way. Little hairs or clusters of hairs would work on a limb of a werewolf. So it's catching up some light after the Terminator already happened and casting some shadow before the Terminator happened, so it's creating like a noisy diffusion of the edge of light in the Terminator. Looks like a nice postcard. So now let's start doing details on the lady. I'll start with adding deeper shadows from the dress and whatever to mark in some geometry. So let's say this is good enough. Now let's work on the actual material. So, a couple of things about metal. First of all, from artistic perspective, metals don't have a surface color. They only have a reflection color. I need to illustrate. So if this is non-metal, say plastic ball, and this is a metallic ball, the difference between the two will be that in here we're looking at the color of the surface of the plastic that is lit. Let's actually use the environment lighting. So there's lighting from the left like that, some reflection on that side that's making the ball brighter into cool color. And at the bottom, let's say it's getting a bit darker, although there's not a lot of sense to that. Well, I guess it does make sense. And let's say it's reflective. Then what we'll do, we'll add a highlight with the color of the light source. So the sun color, let's say, is gonna be somewhere around here, this highlight. So yeah, here we have a kind of a plastic ball. Now the metallic thing. It will be initially, first of all, noticeably darker, simply because everything we see on the metal is mostly reflections and not the surface color. There's barely any. Then it's gonna be reflecting the light source over there, and in there, since we have sun over there, there's bright sky, so we're reflecting really bright sky, somewhat like that. Maybe reflections get a lot more compressed closer to the edge of the ball, and in there we'll see a really bright yet still red sun like that, and really brightly lit clouds next to it. This is like we're seeing something that is beyond the edges of the canvas. And in here we'll have the blue stuff, but it's gonna be still red. So this is how you paint red metal. It's only pretty much reflecting everything around it, and everything that is reflected will be like filtered with red color, like something that you see when you're wearing red sunglasses, that kind of stuff. And if it's a green metal, then it will be green sunglasses, golden yellow sunglasses. So pretty much reflection gets filtered that way. And since the sun is really bright, it will hit the white color, but only because it's just way beyond the exposure of the camera. But in reality, if we would lower the exposure, everything would become black, but the dot of the sun over here will be still red, because that's the only color that red metal will be reflecting. And yeah, pretty much we're seeing sky 360 degrees on the ball. And in here, this is the reflection of the lady. Something like that. From a far distance, it's already looking just about right. Also, we can do some Fresnel effect, so in the center it might get darker because it's facing the camera. Fresnel effect. So usually we are used to see some kind of darker gradient closer to the center of round objects when we're looking at reflections. So yeah, something like that. I'm gonna keep these balls in the composition just for fun. We like to have fun here. Now let's do the same thing on the lady, but she's gonna be made of steel, so not really colorized, but it's just about the geometry of the reflection here. So we're gonna repeat the same thing we did here, but on a much more complex geometry of the whole woman. And some parts, of course, will be just cloth, and her cloth will be maybe sea color or something to go with the red. So first I'll mark in some shadows of the dress so I would know where it is. No, it's not gonna be that torn apart. Something like that. So let's start at the reflections the same way. So I'm gonna start with just segregating portions of the surface that are facing above horizon or below horizon. So this is the edge, somewhat around here. I'll look for like the top of the nose will be looking upwards and the bottom will be looking downwards. So at first I'll do this brighter sky color, like cooler, this kind of color, but darker. Keep in mind that no reflection ever is as bright as the real thing. So when we're adding a reflection, it's gonna be a darker color, even though she's like very reflective, let's say. So I'm adding this kind of color, and then I'll be searching the geometry in these colors after I'm done. So in here, the left side is the dress. So right now I'm adding some kind of really bright highlight. Not a highlight, something bright that is right behind our back as we're looking at her. So in here we have a really bright cloud, and I imagined that behind us, facing over here, is also a bright cloud like that. So that's what she's reflecting. So I'm looking for all the spots on her body where the surface is facing directly at us. And finally, I'll also add the sun highlights on that side. And from that sun, there will also be the reflection of a bright sky the way we had it here. So it's gonna be pretty effective. But let's not forget that the sun ends somewhere around here. I should mark that in with a dress, because dress is easier to indicate. So I was gonna do it the sea color kind of thing, something like that. And now the sunlight, brighter, more saturated a bit, or even less saturated really, and warmer. So yeah, pretty much this is the whole trick. Just go ahead and spend a lot of time solving this puzzle of what's facing where and where the reflections would go. And here I'm pretty much have the copy of this ball, kind of. So yeah, hopefully it looks readable as metal, from the distance at least. For better detail, you need to put more detail into it. following the same rule, pretty much. If you know there are mountains, make the mountains reflected. If it's a cylindrical form, it will be stretching the reflection along its shape, because that's how cylinders work. There we go. I'm gonna erase the plastic ball so it would look more epic, like if the metal ball means something. Yeah, there we go. Well, that was cool, especially the background, because it was easier, and the woman, I didn't even know what she's about. I just needed a metallic character, so there you have it. The picture turned out pretty nice. But that's for you to decide, so tell me what you think. And I thank you for watching if you did. I guess I did if you're here. Leave a like and subscribe, tell a friend. Think with the balls. Do whatever you want. And I will see you in the next one. Bye! Seriously, such a nice background. What is this red fog about? Cool looking.